Hey guys, this is Maliha from the Site Blogger, and today I have a video about featured snippets. And featured snippets have to do with search engine optimization. Basically, what I'm going to talk about today has to do with bloggers optimizing their blog posts and content for a very specific type of search result called featured snippets. Now, the best way to make sense of it is to show you what I mean. Now, let's say that I'm going to search for something like what is a blogger media kit? Now, here's the thing. Let's say that a user has heard about a media kit for bloggers and they're not sure what that is. So they go to Google and they search for what is a blogger media kit. And if they search for it, this is what shows up. Now, typically, a lot of search looks like this. Basically, a title, some description, title, description, blah, blah, blah. But every once in a while, Google will show you something more than a title and some description. It will show you an excerpt from a blog post or a web page or something. So in this case, for example, Google is actually showing you a definition of a blogger media kit. The first result of the search query, what is a blogger media kit, happens to be a definition that Google pulled from a website. And this is kind of cool. As it happens, it actually pulled the result from my website, my blog, the Site Blogger, as you can see over here. So I have a blog post called How to Design a Media Kit for Your Blog. And in that blog post, I have a definition of what a blogger media kit is. So basically, Google read that. I mean, it sounds like a person read it, but it's actually Google's algorithm that can read or contextualize a website or a web page. So it did all of that and it realized that my blog post has a pretty nice definition of a blogger media kit. So it just directly pulled that piece of content and showed it as the first result of the search term, what is a blogger media kit? And that's cool because when your blog shows up like that, it gets a ton of free organic traffic to your blog. So you should definitely try to get featured snippets. And to do that, you have to optimize your content for featured snippets. So in this video, that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the different types of featured snippets there is and how to optimize your blog post for featured snippets. Because if you can get a couple of featured snippets from your blog, you will increase your traffic significantly. So the featured snippet that you're currently looking at right now, this is called a definition featured snippet. And as you can see, it's basically a definition of what a blogger media kit is, and it's a short paragraph, and that's it. Now, if I were to click on that link, it will take you to my blog. And this is the blog post, and I just want to show you what it looks like, that section looks like in the blog, blog post. So basically, I have a header, and the header is very clear. It just says, what is a blogger media kit? And then right after the header, I have the definition. And that's it. It's super simple. So optimizing your blog post or your content for a definition type featured snippet is super, super simple. All you have to do is write a really clear header stating what you're about to explain. In this case, in my case, I'm explaining what a blogger media kit is. So my header is basically just that. What is a blogger media kit? And then right after that header, I have a paragraph where I explained what a blogger media kit is. I wrote a definition of a blogger media kit. A clear, simple, short definition. So in order to optimize your blog for a definition type of featured snippet, all you have to do is write a header, a clear header, So what is this? What is XYZ? Something like that. And then write your definition. And ideally, it should be a short definition, typically within one paragraph and maybe somewhere between 30 words and 50 words. That's the ideal definition. And that's all you have to do. Now, there's another type of featured snippet that you might be you might you may want to optimize your content for. It's called a list featured snippet. This is what it looks like. So in this one, I showed you my query was, what is a Blogger Media Kit? Now for the new search, let's say that I type what information should I include in a Blogger Media Kit? If I type that, boom, Google pulls up a list of information that a blogger might want to include in a media kit. And as it happens, it's actually pulling the information from my blog, the site blogger, the same blog post, in fact. So here's what the list looks like. So as you can see, I have a header. It says information to include in a Blogger Media Kit, and then I have a list, a numbered list, where I have a list, itemized list for the things that you might want to include in your Blogger Media Kit. And that's exactly what Google is pulling. Now you will be, this is curious because Google actually changed the header a little bit. So my header is information to include in a Blogger Media Kit. And Google is writing, what should you include in a Blogger Media Kit? It's actually taking this header, the primary header. So I have a couple of headers here. I have the primary header, then I have a subheader. So it's kind of hard to know what Google will pull. But essentially, you have to use a header to kind of give context to a list and then add your list. And that's all you have to do. Now, if I were to search for, something else, for example, let's say I am searching for digital marketing, then Google pulls up a digital marketing definition from MailChimp website. Now, I'm sure all of you have heard of MailChimp. It's an email marketing platform. And MailChimp also has a blog. And basically, MailChimp has a blog about digital marketing, and it has a definition. Now, if I click on that link, this is what Google is pulling from. It says, what is digital marketing? And then it has a definition of digital marketing. The structure is very similar to what I had for my blog. What is a Blogger Media Kit? And then right away I had a definition for Blogger Media Kit. Now here's the other thing. Instead of searching for digital marketing, if I search for digital marketing tips, for this one, Google actually shows me a list featured snippet instead of a definition. So if I searched for digital marketing, just that, it shows a definition featured snippet. But if I search for digital marketing tips, it shows a list featured snippet. And it pulls a list from a blog called Sprout Social. Now here's the thing. The definition featured snippet is actually pretty simple. All you need is a header and the definition. It's the same for the digital marketing definition as well. It has a header, what is digital marketing, and then a definition. For the list, however, there are a couple of different ways that you can optimize your content for a list featured snippet. So one of them is what I have. Basically, I have a header and then I have a list, a numbered list. But this one is slightly different. The digital marketing tips, it has a list, but if you go to the blog post, it actually shows the list a bit differently. So here's where the list is pulling from. Here's where Google is pulling the list from, basically. 5 need to know digital marketing tips. This is exactly what I have here in the search result page. And then this is the interesting part. It doesn't actually have an itemized list like I had for my my Blogger Media Kit information. Now this is an itemized list. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's an item. This one is actually using headers and subheaders to create a list. Now what do I mean by that? Here's what it looks like on the back end. So to explain what it looks like on the back end, how to optimize your content in the back end, let me go to my WordPress dashboard. And here I have a dummy blog post. As you can see, this is the title of the blog post. This is a blog post title. I have some dummy paragraphs. And here's what it looks like in the back end to have a header and then a list. And I'm going to show you the two different ways that you can create the list, or the two different ways that you can optimize your blog post for a list type featured snippet. So it should always start with a header, and the header should clearly state what to expect. So let's say that I'm writing about digital marketing tips. So my header might say, these are 7 digital marketing tips you should know about. And you have to make this a header. And to make it a header, highlight the text. And I'm using WordPress, by the way. If you use something other than WordPress, you'll have to figure out how to add headers and lists and etc. But I recommend WordPress for all bloggers, so I'm just going to show you how to do this in WordPress. So click the paragraph icon and then click heading. And then you should be able to choose between headers 1 through 6. Now, it doesn't matter which one you use, it kind of depends on your blog and your template and whatnot, but basically use a header. So let's say we're going to use header 2. So this is a header now, and then there are 2 different types of lists, right? One can be what I have, an itemized list, right over here. Basically, it's a numbered list. So to create a numbered list, you can start typing, this is list item number 1, and then just highlight that, click the paragraph icon once again, and then from the list choose list. And then you can choose between a bullet list and a numbered list. It doesn't matter whether it's a numbered list or a bullet list, as long as it's a list. So this is how you create a numbered or a bullet list, basically an itemized list. And then you can just, keep adding new items. Just hit the enter key in your keyboard and keep adding items. This is list item number 2. This is item number 3, and so on and so forth. So this is how you create an itemized list. It's going to be something similar to what I have here in my blog post. But what if you wanted to create a list like this one, where you have not an itemized list per se, but you're creating a list with headers and subheaders. Basically, you have a header, and then you have some paragraphs, and then you have a subheader, and then you have some more paragraphs, and then you have another subheader and some more paragraphs. Now, if you come back to what the snippet looks like, the featured snippet looks like, you'll see that Google is just taking the headers and the subheaders and making a list out of them. So it's taken the header to be the header, the main header, and then it's taking the subheaders as its list item. So for example, the first item here is understand your business goals. And if I go back to the blog post, you'll see that the first subheader is understand your business goal. And then the second subheader is identify your target audience. So if you go to this featured snippet, the second item is identify your target audience. So what's happening is that Google is successfully taking all the subheaders as its list items and basically disregarding all the paragraphs that's in between the subheaders. And you can optimize your blog post in that way too. So for example, if I go back to my WordPress dashboard, you can create, instead of these lists, what you can do is you can just create headers and subheaders. So for example, we already have the header, and then let's say that I have some paragraphs. So I'm just going to copy the dummy paragraphs. And then let's say that I have some paragraphs, and then you want to add a subheader. So this is a subheader. And to create a subheader, basically, again, you go to the paragraph icon, click header, and here's the thing. Your header was H2, right? See, if you follow my mouse, the yellow blob, you'll see that this is a H2 header. The one thing that you have to pay attention is that your subheader should be a header that's below header 2. It cannot be header 1, it cannot be header 2, it has to be header 3 or 4 or 5. So for this one, we will use header 3. And then we will add some more paragraphs. Oops, sorry. Some more paragraphs, and then we'll add another subheader. This is another subheader. And to stay consistent, we use header 3 for the subheader. So we'll use header 3 for this one as well. So all of your list items should have the same heading. And that heading should be below your main heading. So your main heading, you're using header 2, so all of your subheaders should be below header 2. It should be either header 3 or header 4 or header 5, and then stay consistent for all of your subheaders. So if the first subheader is H3, the second subheader should also be H3. If it is H4, then basically it's going to be nested under this subheader. So Google won't treat it as a list. So all of the lists should have the same subheader heading tag. So all of them should be either H3 or H4 or H5. Just stay consistent. And that's basically how you create a list using headers and subheaders. So you can add as many as you want. You can say this is another subheader and then make it a header 3 once again, and like so. So this is how you can make a list item, or how you can optimize your content for list featured snippets with headers and subheaders, or you can do so using an itemized list like I have here. So either one is fine, and which one you're using depends on your blog post and your content, and etc., etc. So you just kind of have to use your common sense to figure out which list you should have, whether it's an itemized list or a header subheader list. But essentially, this is it. That's all you have to do to optimize your blog post for a featured snippet. A definition is just that, a definition following a header, and a list is just a list following a header. That's it. And it's so simple that you can find a way to optimize basically all of your blog posts for at least one type of feature snippets, and sometimes maybe even more than one type of feature snippet. So for example, the Media Kit blog post that I have 2 different types of featured snippets from the same blog post, a definition featured snippet and also a list featured snippet. So, keep an eye out for ways to optimize your content for featured snippets. And if you make it a habit of doing so, eventually, when you start ranking, when you have had your blog for some time, you'll start to see featured snippets show up. As long as Google keeps featured snippets around. Featured snippets have been around for some time, so I don't expect them to just vanish right away. But just keep an eye out because Google changes how its search result page looks periodically. So featured snippets are a thing now, and you should definitely make use of that. But yeah, eventually, Google may discontinue it at some point. I don't know, but since we don't know, I highly recommend that you optimize your blog post for featured snippets. And that's it. That's all I wanted to show you. And hopefully, this was useful to you. And that's it for today. I will see you in a different video with some different tutorial sometime soon. Bye.